أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم افتح علينا حكمتك وانشر علينا رحمتك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام رب زدنا علما أجمعين اللهم لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي اللهم ألهمنا رشدنا وأعذنا من شرور أنفسنا اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه آمين يا رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. في هذه المحاضرة
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
جزاك الله خير. Wait 1 minute. So last time we were at form 6, right? So with respect to form 6, I'll just give you the quick recap of form 6. So what happens in form 6 is there is reciprocity of action. So there are two things that happen in form 6. So the first thing that happens in form 6 is reciprocal action. I'm just repeating it for you. You might have forgotten. Reciprocal action, all right? Reciprocal action. And the second thing that happens is pretended action. Pretended action, all right? So, for example, we have these verbs. Tanawala, ta'awana, tasa'ala. Let's look at the verb tasa'ala. Sa'ala means he asked. He asked a question or he asked something. But when you bring this verb in form 6, so it means asking each other. But this meaning is in the verb itself. You don't have to necessarily mention it when you are translating it. If you know from which group, from which form the verb is coming, it will give you an additional meaning to it that only that person knows who has studied grammar, right? Who is not banking on the translation only. That's one. So we have last time when we studied Surah Asr, inshallah, we will be studying Surah Asr as well one more time, but with a bigger horizon than we studied last time. If you see these, how many of the 6 verbs that are on the screen? Al-Madi, Tanawala, Ta'awana, Tasa'ala, Tashajara, Tabaka, Ta'ama. The last two in these that Dr. Abdurrahim is giving us, these last two, Tabaka and Ta'ama, these are nakis, both of them. The nakis, they're weak because the last letter is a weak one. So we're not going to put any vowel symbol on them. So ideally, it should have been tabakaya. So this, if there is a fatha here, that's wrong. You're going to remove that because this is a weak one. So the same thing goes on if you check your books also. So it's not tabakaya. No, it's tabaka, right? And same thing goes on. So this one is correct. Ta'ama, only one fatha. That's on the meme, nothing on the last one. Right? So some of you who had done the exercise might got confused with this. So this is not no fatha here on it. Yes, when the other ones it is because they are sound verbs, right? They're sound. There is no weak letter in them, but in the last one, the weak is the last one. When you make their mudari', so you have tanawala, it becomes yatanavalu. And in this one, what's going to be the mudari'? Tabaka. What's going to be mudari'? Anyone wants to try? Tabaka. Yes. Yatabaka. What's it? Yatabaka. Ideally should have been yatabaka you, but we cannot put a dhamma on it. So that will be marfu bi dhamma muqaddara. All right, the dhamma that you see with your eyes, you don't put anything. But when you make amr of, I'm just talking about the nakis because nakis, the weak verbs are a bit different. So when you're going to make the nakis, sorry, the amr from it, from these ones, the weak letter completely drops. Just like when you give a spoon to it, you're not going to make it majzoom, you're going to drop it, right? So it's amr bi hasfi harfi illa, like that. So keep those things in mind. Like you see here, tabakin, right? Tabakin, so it becomes defective noun. You call it mankus. That's where the mankus nouns come. So please try to do it, those who have not done it, because till the time you do not write it down, this will not get clarified. I can keep on repeating here and again, but till the time you do not write it down yourself, it's not going to get clear in your minds at all. We had to write it. That's one. Second thing, why these things are very important is if you look at Surah Asr, inshallah, we're going to look at it one more time. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. Imam Shafi rahimahullah, with respect to this surah, he said that the impact of this surah was so profound on him that he said that कि अगर बस यही सूरत नाजिल होती हिदायत के लिए ये भी काफी था. This is the kind of impact Imam Shafi had on this, because the basic, many or majority of the scholars say that the basic message that's in the Quran, it's all covered in this. And I'll tell you how. Shah Waliullah Dahalvi, rahimahullah, was one of the greatest scholars of Indian subcontinent. And he is a person who is well respected among all schools of thought. For example, among the Hanafis, Shafis, Ahl Hadith, all consider him to be one of the greatest. He has written a book, and the five chapters are there in the book, and they're based on this surah. So there are many scholars, great scholars, who have written tafasir and details about the surah. And if you see that other type of scholars, they would say that this surah is actually the index of the Quran. Index of the Quran. The chapters, the details that are there, this is the index. Just the details of that would be in the Quran. How? We're going to look at the surah is based on 3 ayats. And I'm repeating this one more time, that ayat does not mean a sentence. Ayat does not mean a sentence, does not mean a complete sentence. One ayat can be an incomplete sentence, and multiple ayats can make up one sentence. Or an ayat can have multiple sentences. Can anyone give me an example where one ayat, ayat is one, but there are multiple sentences in it? Anyone? You should know the examples. Ayat is one, but there are multiple sentences in the ayat. What's an example? Anyone? It is? Yes. No one? Am I even audible? No one has an answer. So, yes, brother Muhammad Zafar sir, you have any example that the ayat is one and sentences are many?
Sir, Surah Rahman.
No, Surah Rahman is a surah. I'm talking about an ayat. I'm saying ayat is one. Yeah, brother, you're saying something?
I'm recalling this.
Right, no problem. That's the reason I'm repeating, because I know that we tend to forget, which is fine, absolutely
There
fine.
are many.
Give me an example. That's what I'm
There
saying.
are many.
Give me an example.
One of them I can remind is that in Surah Nisa, like
What's
say
an ayat?
yusikumullah fi auladikum lizzakari mithlu
So,
hazzil unsayin.
very good. But
Fa'in
what's a
kunna
very common one?
nisa'an fawqa sanatin.
Mashallah, good.
Yeah,
Very good thing. There are many things. Yes, absolutely. There are
there
many
are
ayats in
many,
the Quran.
many
This
ayat, but yeah,
ayat is one and sentence are there. But very common one that we all of us, even the laymen, understand. That is Ayatul Kursi, right? It's very for any common person.
yeah, that's true.
Ayatul Kursi is one ayat. It's only one ayat. That's why we call it Ayatul Kursi. It's one ayat, the ayat of the throne, we call it. And there are multiple sentences in it. So that's a common example that you can always remember. And in the same way, we have multiple multiple ayats making up one sentence. Multiple ayats. So never have this thing in mind that one ayat is a complete sentence. It's not like that in the Quran, right? And who put this in ayats like this? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put it like that. And it's not based on any logic. It's not based on any grammar rule. It's not based on anything. We do not know. It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put it like this. It's like this. And we can maybe in future try to decode it. So far, we do not know how things are like that. So you can do the research on this. There's a huge scope still. Lots and lots of things still undiscovered with respect to Quran. So the first ayah that we have from Surah Asr, it is a qasam. It's an oath. Wal Asr. So ideally, this is actually, you say the qasam. So we have wow. So we have studied, there are how many types of wow so far we studied? 3 types of wow. But that's what we studied so far. So first type of wow we have harf atf, that works like a conjunction, right? So conjunction, like the translation would be and. So that connects, it can connect to words, it can connect to sentences, it can connect to paragraphs. And this wow can even connect to chapters. So that's one type of wow we have. But this is not that. Uh, that's one. Second type of wow, yes, anyone? Second type of wow we have?
Oath.
Oath, yes.
Wow.
What happens in oath? How would you differentiate? How to differentiate between a waw al atf?
It will
Yes.
act as
Vowel
half, sir.
qasam.
Yes, so Soma, you saying?
It will act as a half, sir.
Very good job. So if it acts as a harf jar, that means if there is an ism majroor right coming next to it, so that is the, yeah, absolutely, ism majroor. So you'll not call it ism majroor here, right? So you'll call it that this is the qasam here, but it is a majroor. Then third type of wow, what's the third type of wow we studied? That is, yes,
Hal.
waw al hal. Very good. So how would you identify waw al hal? That's important. Yeah.
After wow, there will be a jumla ismiya.
Very good. And there are two things in it. There will be jumla ismiya coming it, and it very good. It will be a subordinate clause, right? It's very important. It's not just jumla ismiya, because you can have a jumla ismiya coming after it, and that's how but it's not a subordinate clause. So then it's sorry, it's an atf, right? It's a conjunction in that case. If it's not subordinate, even if there is jumla ismiya coming after it. So here you have to see that the sentence coming after wow has to be a subordinate clause to the principal clause. So then it's waw al hal. All right, very good job. Now this is you call if there is majroor coming after wow. So this is waw al qasam, right? We're not studying any tafsir here, or not going in any commentary or exegesis. We're just studying the basic grammar, trying to understand, trying to confirm our grammar that we have studied so far. So it's clear now. So this wow. So ideally, you would say that this is actually one word, because together they make one word, right? Just the jar majroor, that's one, right? Compound word, just like that. So the first ayat is based on the qasam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is taking the qasam of asr, of time. Now, asr, we studied this word. Uh, asr does mean time, but there are other words for time in the Quran and in Arabic language also. So you have, what are the other names of time? What word do we use for time? We use the word? Yes. What are the words? I'm saying apart from this, what are the other words for time? Sorry? Sorry? I didn't get it. Sister Adia?
Zaman.
Zaman, very good. There is the word zaman. Zaman also means time. Waqt also means time, right? Dahr also means time. And Sa'a also means time. Ideally, it means an hour, but it can also mean time with respect to time. So there are many words for the time in the Quran, as well as in Arabic language. There are more, but Quran uses these words for the time. But what kind of time is Asr? What kind of time is Asr? Asr is that time that is running very fast. Or you can say that when, like for example, if we have the day, the last portion of the day when there is a sunlight, day, not 24 hours. I'm talking about the 12-hour day, so when there is day and night, right? You can, even 24 hours is considered as day if you consider 24 hours. But here I'm talking about day as day and night separate. So the part of the day that is light, the last portion of it is asr, because you would say that it's running very fast actually. So where the time, or you can put it like this, when the time is about to finish, that portion. That's one understanding of asr. Another is, you see the word asir, or you have the word for the storm. You have the similar words for it, asir. and the derivatives of it come from that. So asr, if you because see, you need to make an understanding of it. You're the students of grammar, right? You should be knowing the difference between different times. So asr is that time that's running very fast, or you'll say that the last portion of the day when time is about to finish. Actually, the day is about to finish. You call it asr. Also, you say salat al-asr, right? Why we call it salat al-asr? That's how it's named, because this last portion of the day, which is running very fast. And in that time, you just do the things in hurry. All right, so this is the first ayat. So now tell me, it's not a complete sentence, right? When you're taking an oath, when we taking an oath, a qasam, you are not, just hold on, please, 1 minute. When my father makes calls me, I keep everything aside. So sorry for that. So the second ayat we have, innal insana lafi khusrin. Now, if you take this ayat in isolation, the second ayat, so this is a simple jumla, ismiya. It starts with inna. What's inna? It's an ism or a fi'l, or it is a harf. Inna
It's a harf.
it's a harf.
Harf.
Very good. So how would you define inna? What kind of harf it is? It's harfu tawqid, right? The
Nasab.
particle of, absolutely. Harfu tawqid wa nasb. Very good. So this is the particle of emphasis. Another way to put is harfu mushabba bil fi'l, the particle that resembles a verb. It's going to be there in lesson 21 that we're doing towards the end of it. Let me just show you. Further details of it are going to be there. I'm going to show you. See, this is 179 page. And if we go towards the end, there it is. Mushabbaha bil fi'l. So it has all the sisters. Inna wa akhawatuha. Inna and a sister. So there are total 6 in the family. Inna, anna, ka'anna, lakinna, laita, and la'alla. All 6 of them are there towards the end of this lesson that we're doing. So Dr. Abdurrahim is actually giving us more details about these. So inshallah we'll be doing it. But we should be knowing that. So there's 2 ways to define this inna. Either we can say this harfu tawqid wa nasb. This is the particle of emphasis. Nasb, and it puts the mubtada into mansub, or you call it ismu inna. So it'll always be having ismu inna, khabaru inna. So this will always come after this. This will always come on jumla ismiya. You cannot have inna before jumla fi'liya. It's impossible. It's impossible. You cannot have it. Because why cannot we have it? Because after inna, you got to have ismu inna and khabaru inna. Right? So the ismu inna will always be what? It will always be an ism.
Nas.
Because, right? It will be mansub, but it will always be an ism, right? It can, what my point is, after inna, you can never have verb. You can never have verb. Right? If you have to bring an inna, then you have to bring the lighter form of inna. This is a heavy form of inna, which we'll study later on. Inna will always be, after this will always come ism. Why? Because it gets applied on jumla ismiya, and jumla ismiya's mubtada is always ism. If the mubtada is not ism, then it's not a mubtada khabar. If there is no mubtada khabar, it's not jumla ismiya. Get my point? So inna, after inna, you'll always have an ism, and that ism will always be mansub. All right, it'll be mansub, and the moment it goes mansub, you're going to call it ismu inna. Then you're going to look for khabaru inna. Khabaru inna can be a verb. Right? It can be a verb because khabar has 5 types. Mufrad is khabar. You can have shibu jumla is khabar. Shibu jumla is further of 2 types, zarf or jar majroor, and then the third, another type of khabar, you have a jumla, proper sentence, which itself can be jumla ismiya or it can be jumla fi'liya. So jumla fi'liya can be the khabaru inna, right? It's fine, and it can be any other form of it. So now question here is, if whenever inna comes, you should always look for ismu inna and khabaru inna. So the ismu inna we have found insan. Insan is mansub. The default form was marfu. There was insanu, right, or insanun. So it's definite and it's mansub. So this is our mubtada, but we'll call it ismu inna because the moment inna gets applied, it no longer remains mubtada. It becomes ismu inna. Now tell me, what is the khabaru inna here?
Lafi khus.
Lafi
Right? but the jar majroor was actually fi khusrin, right?
Yeah.
Fi and khusrin,
Fi khus.
right? Fi khusrin was actually jar majroor. But what is this la doing here? There's a lam getting applied on our khabar. Our khabar is fi khusrin. Fi khusrin is jar majroor. What's the meaning of khusrin? Khusrin means loss, a real big loss, right? The loss of billions and billions and billions of dollars, right? Recently, Nvidia company in America had the greatest loss in the history, right? So khusrin, a great loss, बहुत बड़ा खसारा, right? And it's indefinite. It's not. We're not talking about any particular al khusr. It's indefinite. So fi khusrin is our jar majroor. But the question is, what's this lam doing here? So inna we understand. Inna is there because it's for emphasis. Our sentence actually was al insanu fi khusrin, right? Al insanu fi khusrin. So al insanu fi khusrin, the man is in loss. So when you talk of man, it's not talking about man only as a gender. It talks of a human being, right? Includes females. So al insan fi khusrin. Al insanu fi khusrin. You apply inna on it, becomes innal insana fi khusrin. But what's Islam doing here?
It is
Lam
also a
tawkid
harf
again.
tawkid.
Yeah,
Lam tawkid again.
It's also a harf tawkid.
I told you a particular name for this lam.
Tawkid, harf tawkid.
It is for emphasis, but there is a particular name for it. It is for emphasis, you're right, but there is a particular name for it. And I did tell you this name. Now the question is, I'll tell you, you're right, all of you are right. This is the emphasis, it is the lam tawkid, but that's not right. Ideally, there's a particular name for it. So what happens is this lam tawkid, just like inna comes in the beginning, this lam of emphasis comes in the beginning of a jumla ismiya. Now, when you have the lam in the beginning of jumla ismiya and inna is now coming there, so there is conflict between the two. You cannot have both in the beginning. The problem with this lam, the difference, sorry, between this lam of emphasis and this inna, when they both come in the beginning, is, remember this point. When inna comes in the beginning, it puts mubtada into mansub. So inna enforces a change. But when you have a lam of emphasis coming in the beginning, it does not enforce any change. It's a very important difference. Both are harf. So lam tawkid, what you called it lam tawkid, we would call it lam tawkid if it comes in the beginning of a sentence. But it's not here in the beginning. Why it's not in the beginning, I'll tell you. So if it comes in the beginning of a sentence, lam tawkid, lam of emphasis, comes in the beginning of a sentence and does not enforce any change in the sentence. But inna comes in the beginning and enforces a change in the sentence, which is to make mubtada mansub, and you call it ismu inna. Now, when there are two in the beginning, two emphasis, two particles of emphasis in the beginning, they cannot stay in the beginning. Inna comes in, you put it like this. Inna tells Islam, what are you doing here? Lam says, I'm here giving emphasis to the sentence. Inna says, what kind of emphasis is this? You're not enforcing any change in the sentence. Get out. So he goes out and he sits on the khabar. It sits on the khabar now. Inna enforces a change. Now this is known as slipped lam or lamul muzahlaka. Let's call it. I'll write it here for you. Remember this point. It's known as lamul. I can write it for you. Muzahlaka. All right. Remember this point. It means slipped lam or slipped or skating lam. You can remember it like this, right? Just remember it slipped. Skating. You can use the word like that. It slipped. It was already in the beginning. It is emphasis, but because lam tawkid should have been there in the beginning. If you say it is lam tawkid, it is tawkid. It's there for emphasis. For the beginners, that's fine, but you're not beginners. So it should have been in the beginning, but because there is inna there, it doesn't allow it to sit in the beginning of a sentence. It pushes it away, and it sits on the khabar. So the khabar was fi khusrin, and the salam comes there. It's there. Now you can see that there is emphasis of inna, and there is emphasis of lamul muzahlaka, which is originally lam tawkid. Two emphasis, and jumla ismiya in itself is an emphasis. And on top of it, you have the oath in the first ayat, right? You can say it's like oath does not necessarily, our understanding of oath is that why we take oath of something, not necessarily that that thing is sacred or something, not necessarily that, It could also be like you're putting something as a witness. Jaise, wal asr zamana gawah hai. Let's bring zamana gawah. It's not necessarily our understanding what we understand as oath. So I'll not go in that right now. So, but oath is also an emphasis. So you can see kind of emphasis are there. If there is any possibility of the maximum emphasis, that's all there in first two ayats, especially in ayat number 2. Jumla ismiya itself emphasis, inna is an emphasis, lam al-muzahalaka, and there is no further emphasis that is possible in Arabic language. There is nothing. I mean, there cannot be more emphasis than this. So you can see that. And in itself, this is the word of Allah. Word of Allah itself is an emphasis for us, even if those things were not there, right? But you can see the gravity of the situation, that what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to tell us. Wal asr innal insana lafi khusr, right? Indeed. So ideally, you do not translate it. You do not translate inna, you do not translate amal muzahalaka. But you can see in the transitions, you will simply see indeed. But indeed does not justify inna, indeed does not justify amal muzahalaka. It's like, as I told you last time also, somebody giving a speech and he is hitting the dice 2 times, 3 times like this, right? And you just raise your voice. I mean, in Urdu or English, if you have to say something to give emphasis, what do? You just raise your voice. But in Arabic, you do not raise your voice. You have the sentence structure like this, right? Innal insana lafi khusrin. So here we are talking about the loss. So it starts with a failure, right? A failure. Man is a failure. So how to save yourself from failure, that will be in the third ayat. But the question is that sentence number 1, sorry, ayat number 1 was not a complete sentence. Now question is ayat number 2 a complete sentence? Yes, it is, right? Ayat number 2 is a complete sentence. How? We say, indeed, verily, indeed or verily, man, a human being, is in loss. It's a complete sentence. But together with the first ayat, this again is a complete sentence. So ayat number 1 and 2 is a complete sentence. 2 itself is also a complete sentence, but together with 1, it's also one sentence. By time, mankind is in loss, or man is in loss. One sentence. Now, if man is in loss, so we're talking about the tragedy here. Now, who is saved from this loss? That is in ayat number 3rd, and there is an exception. So illa would come in our book 3 towards the end of the book, in last 2 chapters. It's known as istisna. What's it known as? Istisna means exception. So there is a complete chapter. I do not know the chapter number of book 3. It's in the last 3-4 chapters are very important. It has istisna, it has maful mutlaq, it has hal in detail, and there is also what do you call it, tamiz, right? Four chapters, very important, that has all the mansubat. When the noun goes mansub, that's in much detail there. So there we'll study that further. But here we just remember this as a word. Illa means svai, except. Like we have the same word in our kalima. La ilaha illallah. Except, as an exception. There is no God except Allah. La ilaha. So illa would mean an exception. So there is an exception to the rule. So there's a rule that this rule is everybody's in loss, but an exception to the rule is this. That's going to be next. So there are 4 things mentioned in here. Illa allazina amanu. So now we have allazina. See, when you studied the surah, I think last year you guys studied, but that time your understanding of Arabic was not that much that you have right now. So you can right now see that your horizon has gone bigger. Alhamdulillah. Allazina. What's allazina? Allazina is, yes, ism mawsul, the relative pronoun. So it will always have silatul mawsul, that is the relative clause. All right, so the relative clause that we have here starts with amanu. So illa alladhina, except those. Amanu, illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihati wa tawasu bil haqqi wa tawasu bis sabr. So you see that so many wows are coming there. Now we'll first look at the wows. Amanu wa, there's a wa here, there's a wa here, there's a wa here. What kind of wow is this? This is waw al-qasam again. No, it's not waw al-qasam. It's waw al-hal. No, it's not waw al-hal. So what's it? It is the waw of atf, right? It means and. So the first word we have in the silatul mawsul is amanu, amanu. So this is the first one. So among the exception to this rule here is that all of the mankind is in loss. The first thing that will save you from the loss is amanu. Now, what kind of word is this amanu? Is this a verb or is this a noun?
Fail Madi.
Fail madi. Very good job. So this is fail madi, and which form is this? Yeah, what form is this? We should be knowing that. Form 4. Is form 4. We sure about it? Very good job. So it's bab if'al, right? Amanu. What will be the masdar? So this is amanu. So this is form 4. But who is the file of it? First, let's look at the file first. Who is the file of this verb amanu?
Wow.
Waw al jama'a. Very good. So this is the plural, right? So what's going to be the masdar of this verb? Masdar of this form 4? You should know the masdar.
Imanan.
Iman, very good. Imanun, imanan,
Imanan.
imanin. Absolutely. Iman, right? In simple words. Iman would be the masdar. So amanu. So those who believed, right? As a simple transition. All right. And then we have wa. So there's a first quality that these people will have, that those who believed. And the second one will be amilu salihat. So this is again the atf. So what's this amilu? Amilu is again. Yes, anyone? What is amilu? What is this? Is this a verb or is this a noun or is this, what is it? First, you should understand that.
Verb.
It is a verb. Very good. So which form is the verb? It is form 1, 2, 3, 4. Which one? It is
1.
1. Very good. So base form. So it's amila ya'malu. So which group is this? IA. Bab samia. Amila ya'malu. Amila ya'malu. Bab samia. That's IA group. All right. So samia yasma'u. Amila ya'malu. So the plural. So it's again the plural, right? So who is the file of this verb? It's madi. Remember it. It's not amr. It's madi. Amilu is a
Wawul
fail
jama.
madi. Wawul jama again. Wow. So those who believed and did amal, right? What kind of amal that they did? As-salihat. Now, what is this as-salihat? So this is, why is this majroor? Question. The first question is, why is this majroor? There's a kasra at the end. And this is, anyone can tell me, why is this majroor?
Mudaf ilayh.
What is a mudaf? If this is mudaf ilayh, where is the mudaf?
Is a mansub form.
Why is, how is it has a kasra? How is it mansub?
It's feminine.
Heart. Heart. This is a feminine.
This is
that
plural feminine.
Yes, so give the proper answer. You guys already know. So you say that this is, your answer should be like this. This is, so why is this mansub? Let me ask you first. Because see,
It's object.
very good. It is the maf'ulun bihi. So the answer should be like this, that as-salihat is maf'ulun bihi. Can you write it down, you guys? You know the answer, but you're all over the place. So this is maf'ulun bihi, mansub, right? It's maf'ulun bihi mansub wa alamatu nasbi kasra, right? Why is it kasra? Because see, now the ideal situation was the mansub is represented by a fatha, right? That is the alamatul asliya. But the moment you have an alamatul far'iya coming, the secondary alamat coming there, right, which is a kasra here in this case, kasra is representing mansub, then in that case you have to give the reasons. So I say mafulun bihi mansub wa alamatu nasbihi al-kasra al-zahira li'annahu jama muannas salim. Simple. Very easy. Jama muannas salim. It's a jama muannas salim, right? Feminine plural. Mafulun bihi mansub. Want me to write it for you? You should be knowing this because these things will keep on coming for you again and again. I'm going to write it here for you. Right? Hold on. Sorry, it's going to be maf'ulun bihi. All right. Now this one is basic. Maf'ulun bihi mansub, right? This is elementary. You know this. Maf'ul bihi mansub, right? This maf'ul bihi is always mansub. So wherever you come maf'ul bihi, you will say it's mansub, right? Then you will say, then you will define the mansub. That means that you'll say what is the alamatu nasb, right? So you'll say wa alamatu nasbihi, because it's nasb. If it was marfu, then you'll say alamatu raf'ihi. If it was majroor, you'll say alamatu jarrihi, right? Are you getting my point? Wa alamatu nasb. What's the alamatu nasb here? Alamatu nasb. What's alamatu nasb? It is al-kasrah. Al-kasrah. You can say zahira also, but that's fine. If it was muqaddara, then you had to mention it. But it's zahira, so you can mention zahira or you don't need to mention zahira. But alamatu kasra, sorry, al-kasra is not the primary representative of mansub. It's not a primary alamatu nasb. What's the primary alamatu nasb? That is fatha, right? So when there is a secondary alamat representing any declension, then you have to give the further explanation to it. If it was mansub by default, then you'll say alamatun nasbihi al-fatha, then we're done, because al-fatha was primary. Are you following me? But here it's not the primary,
Yes.
right? It's not a primary one that's here. It's the secondary. It's alamatul far'iyah. So when there is alamatul far'iyah, you have to give the further explanation. Why was the reason? So then you will say li'annahu, right? Li'annahu means li'annahu, ma'mana li'annahu, because, right?
Because it is.
Right, because it is li'annahu. Now I had to say the reason of it. What's the reason? Because it is jama muannas
Salim.
salim, right? So because we know that jama muannas salim, if we get disconnected, you guys reconnect, all right? Because we know that in jama muannas salim, the fatha is the mansub is represented by kasra, right? Or you guys can reconnect. So we'll continue, all right?